You may be able to tell, I'm a struggling stand-up comedian who also struggles to stand up. To be honest, I'm not sure which I am worst at. I'll leave that for you to decide. But, just so you know, if you don't laugh at a disabled guy, you are going to hell. If you are wondering how I got disabled, it's because I didn't forward that chain email to 10 of my closest friends when I was younger. It's nice to be here on this Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night. Sorry, the days are arranged in order. I'll get there eventually. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, February night. Damn technology. I knew I should have bought a Commodore 64 instead. Anyway, let's continue. I might as well get this out of the way now, while you are all trying to figure out what is going on. Believe it or not, no, I can't speak at all. So please don't ask me after the gig if I can really talk. A ridiculous amount of people already have in the past. Because, obviously, it's socially acceptable to pretend to be disabled for the sake of entertainment. If I was going to lie about being disabled, I doubt I would have chosen this one. As a comedian, not being able to speak is probably the worst disability to pretend to have. It's far more likely that I would pretend I couldn't walk so I could perform while sitting down. Or maybe I would say that I was blind. Then I'd be able to let my dog poo on people who didn't laugh at my jokes. In fact, I have been asked if I really can talk so many times now that I simply refuse to speak to the person who asked it. I just nod and wink, simply to confuse them even more. I mean, they must think I'm a better method actor than Daniel Day-Lewis in my left foot if they think I can put this on for hours at a time. Let me tell you, you get asked some really strange questions when you are disabled though. My disability is called cerebral palsy. Recently I was asked what sort of cerebral palsy I had. I wasn't even aware that there was different brands of it. I have definitely not got any design and brand of cerebral palsy. I think I picked mine up from Wilkinson's. Whenever I'm asked what sort of cerebral palsy I have, I always want to say I've got the bad kind. I don't know what they expect me to say. Next, they will be asking me to rate my cerebral palsy on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being really bad, and 1 being a benefit cheat, appearing on the Jeremy Kyle show. I have been called many different names in the past. Just last week, someone called me physically challenged, which I always thought was a game on Crystal Maze. Of course, other names have not been as nice. In fact, I'm sick of getting pointed at, laughed at, looked at strangely, treated as if I am stupid and called names just because I am different. It's not even my fault that I'm from Newcastle. I have been called many different Another question that I get asked quite often is, have I ever tried to talk just to see what would happen? as if I had just been lazy all of my life, and therefore just couldn't be bothered to talk. Like I was only putting it on to take advantage of the disabled parking. But, in case you are wondering, no, I hadn't tried to talk before. Mainly because I know nothing would happen. Besides, I've built a career out of not being able to speak now. I don't think I should be encouraging my voice to magically reappear too much. The found voice guy just doesn't have the same ring to it. I do actually talk in my sleep, though. I know I do because I always wake up with random sentences typed out on my iPad. Admittedly, this job would be so much easier if I could talk. Because apparently it's very important to get your tone of voice right when doing comedy. So that means I'm completely screwed. For example, this is what I sound like when I'm excited. And this is what I sound like when I'm miserable. And this is what I sound like when I'm happy. And this is what I sound like when I'm bored.
In fact, the only time I sound any different is on Tuesday nights, when I pretend to be a woman.
It's at this point in my set when I like to remind people that I'm not related to Stephen Hawking in any way. However, I was asked by a taxi driver if I was as clever as him once. I'm clearly not as clever as him, or I wouldn't be in this generic town or city talking a load of rubbish. In fact, the closest I have ever come to being Hawking is when I went to see The Theory of Everything at the cinema. It's the movie about Stephen Hawking and his life. I didn't go to watch it though. I just went so that I could sit at the back, say random sentences on my iPad, and mess with the rest of the audience. Hawking would say something on screen, and then I would speak up at the back and explain that I didn't say it at all, and that the movie was putting words into my machine. One guy in front of me seemed to be really impressed that it was being shown in surround sound. I often get asked if I am out with my carer as well. I really wish people would stop thinking that the people I am out with must be my carers. Because obviously disabled people couldn't just be out with friends. That would just be stupid. Just to put the record straight, I have always been very social and have a lot of mates. I had some great friends at school. I think it's rather different when you attend a school for disabled people compared to a mainstream school. In mainstream schools, it is the fittest and most attractive children who are most popular. But it wasn't like that for me. At my school, you were judged on how bad your disability was. If there wasn't that much wrong with you, then you were bullied for being too normal. And let me tell you, you don't want to be on the receiving end of an electric wheelchair. Like most good friends, we got up to our fair share of mischief when we were together. Such as the time I borrowed my friend's wheelchair and stood outside a church, trying to sell it because a miracle had happened and I had been healed. Or when I went to the zoo with my mate who had one arm, went into the lion enclosure and asked him to point out which one of the lions had took the other arm in front of loads of children. And we used to love sending my blind friend really erotic letters from a pretend girlfriend because we knew his mother would have to read them to him. I got the train to the gig today. I always like to sit in those seats for disabled people. It's just easier to get off. Anyway, I was in that seat and was about halfway here when another disabled person got on and asked me to move. I'll be honest, I didn't realize I'd be playing disabled top trumps when I got on, or I would have dressed more special. Needless to say, I didn't move. Who cares if he was both blind and deaf? I was there first. It was very awkward. He couldn't see that I was still there. And I couldn't tell him I wasn't moving because I can't speak. In the end, I had to throw his guide dog a stick. I didn't mean for them to end up under the train. But now he really is disabled, and is welcome to my seat when he recovers. I decided to get a taxi to the venue. I checked beforehand, and it didn't look that far. I thought I could easily afford it. The taxi driver had other ideas, however. I think he must have seen me coming and decided that I must be thick as well as disabled. This was confirmed when he started shouting every word slowly at me. I could have told him to stop, but to be honest, it was very amusing. Especially as I still couldn't understand his accent. Anyway, I ended up taking the longest taxi ride I've ever taken. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, it cost an absolute fortune. Maybe it didn't help that I was confusing the taxi driver by pretending to be the satellite navigation system guy. I decided to get a taxi.
After 200 yards, bear left. Well done. At the roundabout, take the second exit. Or is it the third? I can never remember since they did those roadworks. Maybe it's the first exit. Yes, it's definitely the first exit. Take the first exit. Bollocks. It was the second exit. Why didn't you say something? You bastard. Never mind. I know a shortcut. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Take the bridge over troubled water. Winding your way down on Baker Street. You're on the road to heaven. Stop. Hammer time.
People have often asked me why I want to put myself in a position where everyone can stare and laugh at me. The truth is that it happens to me every day anyway. At least this way there's a scheduled time and place for it. I like to think I'm providing a public service, which is more than the government is doing at the moment. Of course, I do it because I want to be famous too. I think everyone does really. I started off in a disabled Steps tribute band. We were called Ramps. That was a bit of an uphill struggle. I used to often think about going on the X Factor just to see the look on their faces when they realize I can't actually sing, or dance, or talk. I don't wonder about this anymore. The X Factor auditions came to the area recently, so obviously I went along to see what would happen. I thought I could be in with a chance, because Gareth Gates became successful despite his Choosing which song to sing to the judges was hard. Shout by Lulu was an obvious candidate, as was Don't Speak by No Doubt. But sometimes I say it best, when I say nothing at all. I don't wonder. I am also single. Yes, I know, it surprises me too. I have tried finding a girlfriend. Let's be honest, none of us want to be left on the shelf. And I don't mean the one in Tesco. I mean the one in the great big dating supermarket of life. The one where the most desirable people have already been taken. The cheapest have been used and brought back for a refund. And the rest of us just sit there like Tesco own brand red sauce. Not as tasty and hardly ever picked up. Dating is hard though, especially when you're disabled. I would try speed dating, but by the time it took me to type a sentence, it would be time to move on to the next person. Having a disability isn't all bad though. It turns out that disabled people can get away with anything. I pushed a little child out of the way recently. I wasn't even in a hurry. I just wanted to test out my theory. It got worse for the kid when his mother shouted at him for not looking where he was walking. I am used to people getting out of my way when I'm walking down the street though. It's almost as if they are afraid they will catch something from me. I got straight to the front of the queue in accident and emergency recently as well. There was so many people with blood everywhere that I started to imagine that I was Moses and I was parting the Red Sea. I also got out of jury service this year by playing the disability card. Well, I said I was a member of UKIP, which is the same as having a mental disability. In fact, I've played the disability card that many times now that I've made an actual disability card. If I want to sit down on a busy train, I pull out the disability card. If I want tickets to a sold-out music concert, I pull out the disability card. If I see an attractive girl who is way out of my league, but obviously has a conscience, and who would probably sleep with me out of sympathy, I pull out more than just a disability card. I do need to set a few things straight. Firstly, I'm not drunk and this is actually how I walk all the time. Despite what embarrassed parents might tell their children when they ask awkward questions as I walk past. I did spend 8 years as an alcoholic in a vain attempt to correct this issue, thinking that if I drank enough, I'd walk straight. Turns out it just aggravated the bladder issue further.